I actually started running role-playing games in my youth. And of course, as with many people, I started off with Dungeons and Dragons, kind of the go-to at the time. Granted, it was also one of the first systems out there. Most people would graduate to other systems thereafter, but there wasn't anything out there that really fit what I wanted. I wanted that high fantasy space opera, the mix between the two, the sci-fi and your fantasy, or fantasy and your sci-fi if you prefer. And at the time, there really wasn't much of anything like that out there, so I had to start making my own, and I called it Freelance Vigilante. Well, it's changed quite a bit over the years, and the most recent edition I've actually compiled into a Roll20 character sheet. I have pretty much all the relative information on there, but before I get to that, and before I give it a little bit of a pitch for beta testing the new system that I have set up, or some of the mystic arts as I refer to them as, I want to talk a little bit about role playing in general, and what it is and wasn't isn't and what have you. And in order to start that, I'm going to mention that I've been training a successor, so to speak, in terms of the GM side of things. I actually picked it back up back around about 2011 and started reworking on the system after not doing much of anything with it for over a decade. And at that point, it's gone through a lot of revisions and improvements, and there's a whole new elemental manipulation mechanic that we're planning on adding in for the next season, which is going to need some serious testing. We've also introduced a few other things which are going to be refined over the course of the gameplay, which is the robots have finally come. The way that we had it broken up for the longest time is there was different realities, effectively, and one of them was known as Technos, which is the realm of the robots. And the introduction of that in the campaign was actually partially a MacGuffin to prevent me from having to really deal with proper robots in game, because when you have people with abilities that allow them to, with their mind, to take over varied electronic devices, the idea of having robots make too big of a thing is a little bit, well, silly, frankly. Because, oh, okay, I've got this great robot, and then somebody comes in and hacks it with their brain, somewhat somewhat cyberpath. Goddamn, I should write a script for this. Oh well, sorry, I'm going unscripted. Um, Cyberpunk, that's what I'm thinking. But in any case, when you can hack a robot, what's the point of using them for an attack or a defender or what have you? And that's kind of the issue. But now with the introduction of Technos, we can finally get away with that. But we also have somebody that's going to be taking over the running of the games now that I've gone through, let's see now, I put it after running for about, I think it was about a year and a half, back starting in about 2011, I think it was. I ran for a couple years then took a break and picked it back up yet again just a couple of years ago before running role-playing games became popular again. And incidentally, D&D and role-play aren't synonymous. They're referred to as tabletop role-playing games, or just simply RPGs or what have you, but Dungeons and Dragons isn't the only form or what have you. Let's get that out of your systems right now. But the idea of what is and isn't a role-playing game seems to become a little bit skewed. And there are good players and bad players, and there are good GMs and bad GMs. And one of my players asked me to train them how to run, and I have been. And they will be most likely running the demo season. But before we get to that, let me just pop up a role-playing 101 here on the screen, make this nice and big so there's something on the screen to not bore you completely as I play a conversation that I had with a young lady that I've been training to start running, and it was interesting. A while ago,
But
I did give you the assignment of going out and finding other games to join to see what other DMs are doing wrong. What's your list?
oh, what? Okay. Give me a minute to mentally think of the entire list.
Well,
Okay.
we do have more than one game here to be dealt with.
Yes, we do. Okay. Let's start with the first one that I went on and did, where he was
We
putting
don't
his
need names. We
emotions
don't
to.
need names. I do actually have something open here.
Okay. Putting your emotions into the game a bit too much as GM, as in being really upset if a player leaves, that type of thing. That's not really healthy or good. Um,
That guy, you had a problem with him effectively stalking a player that had left the game, if I recall.
yep. Yes, I did. Um, let your players have control a bit. Don't force them to do everything, or don't force them not be able to do anything. And make sure they have a good grasp of the rules. Make sure they have a good idea of how to use their abilities. If they have any questions, they are more than welcome to ask. Um,
And make sure that
don't.
you, as a GM, avail yourself to answer those questions. As long as it's not
Yes.
completely derailing the game, you might have to pull somebody aside, but yeah.
Yes. Okay. Thankfully, I can all mentally figure this out. Okay.
Now, if I remember correctly, with that particular one, you were on railroad car most of the time.
Yep. Ironically, I didn't realize this is actually a real assignment. I thought it was just go and see
No,
its
it's
shit
an
just
actual
jokingly.
assignment. I'm actually recording your answers. Haha.
God fucking damn it. Okay then. Alright.
Oh, I told you
another.
that if I was going to train you as a GM, I'd give you assignments.
Yep. Okay. Okay. Another.
Go ahead, Rolina.
Okay. Another thing would be, if you have a problem player, yeah, sure, you can give them chances, but after a while, if they keep causing issues, feel more than free to kick them or ban them or punish them whatever way you feel you is needed, because they have caused way too much corruption. Not corruption. They've caused too many distractions.
Corruption's fair enough because you can have one or two people making it unpleasant for everyone else.
That's
and
true.
It's not about just one or two people. It's got to be about everyone. Favoritism is just as bad for a GM as it is for the player, and I will admit I've actually
Done that
crossed
once
that
or
line a
twice.
couple of times as well. Granted, part of that is because I literally can't deal with stress these days, but hey.
Expect the unexpected. Your players are in charge of the session, more or less. You can have some control, but in the end, it comes down to the players to decide what the fuck happens in the game.
I would say that comes down to don't overplot and expect players to try to throw you a monkey wrench and be prepared to adapt to it.
Yep.
But what was it that they were doing wrong that brings that one to mind?
Basically the idea of say you roll a nat whatever. In this case, I'm just gonna roll a nat 20, and you're not expecting them to do it. Well, it's a female player and a female character. Suddenly, this person becomes infatuated with you.
Oh, wait, this was that same idiot that forced you into the position of having to RP through a rape scene or something like that.
No, this is actually a different one, but the rape scene is another good one.
Yeah.
This is a different one, but the rape scene one, yes. Never force your players or your GMs to be forced into a position of something they don't want to do. In this case, it was rape. In other cases, it could just be straight out killing a child for all we know. If someone's not comfortable with something, you shouldn't push them.
But at the same point, now we have our lovely little quote-unquote consent list. Now people will be put in situations that are certainly uncomfortable. Now, I'd normally try to give them some kind of out or what have you, but also I have it set up so that if a player's incredibly uncomfortable with something, they can let me know, and I can you can go to black. If something like that happens with a character, they don't need to RP through. If they're uncomfortable, just say, I'm not comfortable with this. Cool, we can fade to black if you want.
Exactly. Because in the end, if the player's uncomfortable with something, they should tell us what the issues are.
And they need to feel comfortable doing so. But yeah, forcing somebody to completely RP through something like that is potentially traumatic, actually. And that you don't necessarily know what the person's background is.
Yes. Let's see here. Players should have control over their own things, like I said. And they should also have power, but you should also watch out for if the power goes to their head, both the player and the character's head.
And that goes into not taking things too seriously as well, I'd think.
And it takes into that, and it goes into you are in control of your character.
Yep, it goes into both. Let's see here. The main thing is to make the session as fun and as enjoyable as you possibly can for yourself and the players. If things get too out of hand, well, it goes back to the take things too seriously thing. It just doesn't work.
Well, to a point, the players somewhat dictate the tone of the game to a degree. You might have what you have in mind for the plot, but whether the players are going to want to go that way or not is ultimately up to them, and you have to respect that to a degree without necessarily deciding, I'm going to have the plot circle entirely around the players. You're still interacting with the universe, and things will not always go the player's way.
Mhm.
And that's one thing that I've found that some players have a hard time dealing with.
Another thing is, just because of this actually goes from several different things.
Mhm.
If a player, say, wants god powers or a certain, even a rifle, I feel that they must earn it through game.
Well,
And some of
there
those
are
crazier,
some things I don't care. There are some things you can't allow somebody to earn, like god powers. I'm
like
sorry,
god
what?
powers.
That just ruins the game
Yes.
for everyone else, especially if you're going to get to just one character. At that
Oh
point, you're
yeah.
just kind of pissing everyone else off. I remember you telling me about
But
that
yes,
one.
yep. Let's say it was a game where the whole purpose of it is for you guys to reach out to gods or fays to gain their power. Then that makes a little bit sense that you earn it that way. But given this particular thing, was the
Well,
guy was
it
just like, "Oh, you're
gives
my
fair
best friend.
chance
Here's
for
God."
others to actually do the same.
Yep.
And that would
And
be the
like with
difference,
this
I
one, it was
think.
just yes, that would be the big difference. In this case, it was just, "Oh, you're my best friend. You have earned God powers."
And that goes to the rule about not picking favorites and the fact that that applies doubly to the GM.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay, moving forward to the next bad experience.
Yep. Okay. Another bad experience is um. Hmm. God damn, there's been a lot of bad experiences, haven't they?
Yeah, there's more, and with a lot of these games, there's
Oh,
been more bad than good. It's hard to find a decent GM. It's just why I actually
don't.
considered training to be something that is useful and beneficial.
I think we all know what this is from. Don't blame a player for a situation caused by others, or just a situation in general.
Yep.
You pull them aside, you talk to them about it first. And if it really is needed, then you do the punishment. But if you don't necessarily blame a player for their situation, especially one caused by others.
Yeah. Now, also, you have to keep in mind that everyone that's playing is their own person and will have less situations, and you try to accommodate them as best you can. Sometimes things will work for you, and sometimes things won't.
Oh, here's another major one. You are their GM. You're there to help them maybe work out something they can't work out through in life, or just have fun and enjoy the game. You are not their damn therapist.
Hmm. Yeah, I actually got corralled in a situation that I felt like I was more somebody's therapist than anything else, and yeah, role playing is used in therapeutic sessions, but I'm not a therapist, and this is not one of those sessions.
No. Also, you have to. Yes, some help can be fun, but in the end of the day, it is your rules, your server, your game, what have you. The players should listen to you and trust your judgment. Also, you should try to give the players all situations that they can most likely win, because an unfair fight's just bullshit.
Unfair fight's unenjoyable, but you should give them a chance to try to escape from it or get away or something like that. I mean, I've seen many a times people sitting there running games that you always have the villain getting away, but you don't afford the same luxury to the player.
Mhm.
And that luxury should be given to the players. Now, the players can, of course, get in over their head, and if they're, you walk into, you sit there, you open the door, it's a military barracks, you see about 50 guys in there, you have a team of 3 people. Closing the door and running like hell should be an option. And to give them the chance to at least try to fucking escape. But at the same point, if they decide they're going to stroll in there and we're going to attack everyone, I'm sorry, you're going to die now. The players should be able to die from their own stupidity, on the other hand.
Oh yeah, they should never be afraid to kill a player's character off if they do something stupid that will get their character killed. Yeah, mercies once in a while can be a good thing, but if there's just no way to save the character, sometimes there's just no way to save the damn character, and they are SOL.
Yeah.
Oh, I have another one. This kind of also goes under the favoritism thing.
Mm-hmm.
No plots armor are given game break-in and sometimes lore break-in items to a player.
Yeah.
Because, guess what? Say you give someone a hammer that does 20d10 damage, oh, the enemies suddenly have ones that do about that or a little bit stronger. Sorry, guys.
And one of the things we have in terms of balance here, and part of this prevents the whole I'm going to try to do something completely game breaking, The way that I taught you to run it, the way that I've been running it for years, is if we allow you to do it, we have to allow the NPCs to do it. And before you try to do something that you think is game breaking, keep that in mind, because there are some elements that are in place to make sure that it's fair on both sides.
Yep, and that also comes to another point of, if you're running a game, you should try to at least make events somewhat make sense. If a player does call you out and say, hey, this doesn't really make sense, if something does come up that doesn't make sense, you should be more than willing to at least look into it, or explain it to them that, hey, this is how this is, I'm the GM, all that type of stuff.
I had a damn near revolution over that, and after I explained things, you guys started getting it, but the group was so upset by it that I'm like, okay, let's see if we can find a way to undo this.
And I will admit, I was more confused on the situation at that particular time than anything else. But yes.
Yep, the one thing you should have learned from me in terms of that particular game is that sometimes your plan to have the cavalry show up to save the day will backfire.
Yep. Always do not panic if your plans backfire. You should always be able to think quick on your. You should always be able to think quick on be quick on your feet, and think of other situations to unfuck a situation that players have messed with.
Actually, on that on that particular one, I just ended up playing it through, knowing that it was pretty much a no-win situation, and that the players weren't getting the whole clue, which I kept trying to give them of, get to the ships, get the fuck out. So I just ended up running it through because, yeah, but realistically, I should have said, okay, I'm going to come back and look at this tomorrow. It's okay, should be okay to suspend a game so you can figure out what the fuck happens next. Regardless of what the players think about that at the moment, if you have to step back as GM for a second to figure shit out, just fucking do it. I'm certainly make my mistakes as well. And on that occasion, by not doing so, I was making a mistake that day. Didn't expect somebody to fucking nuke the goddamn station you guys were doing an op in.
Well, that was partially Novic's fault, but anyway. Moving on. What would be another good one? Because I've already said quite a few ones that,
Well, you can move on to the current neophyte that you've been dealing with at some point if you'd like. The guy that doesn't know what the fuck a role-playing game is but is running one anyway. You can move on to them at any point.
Oh yes, I think I'll move on to them now.
Alrighty.
So, as for the latest guy, you should never be expected to pay to play a game. In this particular instance, he's trying to suggest that everyone who's in that game, some of them don't even have access to a proper computer or proper, gaming site, is expecting us to pay money for a simulator to play this game on.
Yeah,
that's a big no-no.
Money is available to everyone.
Yep. You should, and this also goes back to the whole your player should have control over some of the stuff. That includes even being able to move your damn token on the map, and have control to your sheet. And you should play your character how you should play it, not, oh, your character is addicted to drugs. They're gonna spend, 8,000 of their 9,000 bucks they have left on drugs. I'm sorry, what? No.
So taking control of a character to make them do things the player doesn't consent or agree with?
Yeah, that's a big no-no. Big no-no.
Yeah, that kind of defeats the purpose of the player playing the role of their character when they're being kneecapped when they're trying.
Yep. Let's see here. This is a really big one that always makes me laugh a little bit.
Wait a minute, so he made your character take a lethal overdose without consulting you about it?
Pretty much, and she barely lived. She went down from 14 to 6 health.
Fun.
He said, oh, I'm gonna bring him down. I'm gonna bring your character down to 1 health, but you know what? No, I'm gonna be nice and give you 6 health instead.
Ay.
Okay, let's see, one other thing.
Making somebody else die from the GM's, I'm not even going down that road. Keep going.
if a player dies in a game, it should be by their own actions. But anywho, this
Now,
one makes me laugh a
mind
little
you,
bit.
I'm going to throw the caveat on there of, things like trying to decide I'm going to try to solo a dragon is still their own actions.
Yeah.
Even if it's technically the dragon killing them. They're the ones that actually are the dumbass that put themselves in the situation.
It's very true. Okay. The next one. So as GMs, we're supposed to entertain people. Yeah, we can't do all the voices. We can't change our voice on a whim. Some of us just can't.
Well, we
But
do our best, and you've gotten better with that, I admit.
yes, but you don't necessarily need to go and pay people to be voice actors for your NPCs. Seriously, dude. Why?
Well, no. I mean, if you wanted to do that, you certainly could, but they have to kind of be into the whole roleplay thing. I mean, they're playing a character, and if you're just giving them a script, you're limiting what they know and what they can say. They're not really playing the character.
Exactly. That's why I'm having the biggest issue with that.
It'd be over scripting the adventure.
It would be. And you shouldn't overscript the adventure, because guess what? Party knows how to fuck things up. Parties always do.
Yeah, they will. But it
You
kind
should
of breaks
expect
the immersion when you have somebody in there that's supposed to be doing some kind of voice acting, voicing a character thing, and all of a sudden they're like, I don't have that bit of dialogue here. I don't have an answer to that. At that point, they're just an NPC from a video game in a T-pose.
Exactly.
I do not have any information on that. Immersion broken.
Oh, and this goes actually back to some of the other games. Really watch out if your players get too attached to an NPC or get way too attached to something. But anyway, we'll be back on.
Yeah, we a while back in ours had a player we had to throw out because they got so attached to an NPC they got suicidal and the NPC died.
That they did.
That's
They
a problem.
did. That is very big. That's a problem.
And you and I have already discussed that the GMs have to, to some degree, keep an eye on the mental health of the players, just in case they start getting way too attached.
If you see a player that has issues, they really should take a step back.
Mm-hmm.
They really should. Even if it's a forced one, for their own mental health safety, and for the mental health and enjoyment of other players. Let's see here. Oh, gosh. Also, yeah, we all know, some of us do know of all the voice actors that have that one show called Critical Role on YouTube and a few other things. If your GM really wants to try to do that, especially with a homebrewed system.
Wait.
Yeah.
You were telling me about those guys. Didn't they basically say this isn't exactly normal role play, don't try to emulate it? Or something like that?
They more or less have. Even the main GM himself, a voice actor by the name of Matt Mercer, who has voiced anything from characters in anime such as Levi from Attack on Titan to McCready in Fallout 4, basically agreed with someone who posted about every GM is different, every game is different, and basically just have fun. He actually more or less himself said, do not try to copy myself. And it's pretty smart.
This new guy that you'd been dealing with most recently, that you were learning from watching their mistakes, I understand that what they were doing was not only trying to emulate that, but just trying to incorporate. Well, basically, it's more like he has his story in mind and is trying to force you to play the characters in a story as opposed to playing your own characters and adapting the story based on your actions.
More or less. He, part of the reason why he wants us all to switch to another tabletop simulator thing, whatever it is because it's easier to stream.
Oh.
Yes. Yes.
So he doesn't have decent streaming software, in other words.
To him, apparently Roll20 isn't the best for streaming, which I call bullshit on that because we've had several sessions that were streamed.
Well,
just look on YouTube and you can find them.
It's just that you need to actually have proper streaming software as opposed to something that does the work for you. I'm thinking that's most likely because, I have to do a screen cap and what have you. Or,
well, that's true.
Rather record a screen area.
That could be true. Also, when someone's trying to help you learn Roll20, or someone gives a suggestion, you should try to listen to them, especially if you're brand new. And
Has this
some
guy ever
people just
ran a
don't want to
game
listen.
before?
He claims he has, but I don't really know. He doesn't know shit about Roll20, apparently.
Well, not knowing about Roll20, that's hardly a big deal. Granted, everybody runs homebrews to some degree, and I know we had somebody that went in there and read him the riot act for changing things within the system itself. But that aside, I mean, you were saying that they were treating power armor as just additional hit points?
Any armor is basically additional hit points, especially power armor, because it has the most. So, you know how in D&D, or even in this game, we have an armor system, right?
Mm-hmm.
We have our PR, which is our physical resistance, plus
It
we get a
either
little
makes
bit
it
of that
harder
from
to
the
hit
clothes.
or harder to take damage, or reduce the amount of damage, or something.
A little while back, my character got hit, and she lost only 2 points of armor and 10 points of health.
Okay. But
so armor kind of means
what you're
nothing.
saying is they're inconsistent with their rules.
They are, and armor means nothing in that universe, apparently.
Yeah, that'll upset players, certainly.
Mm-hmm.
Being consistent is incredibly important.
And he seemed a little bit... You could tell that he sounded a little bit down tonight when he said if we switch to this tabletop simulator, that means more players will have more control over their characters. Oh my!
Oh, this is a guy that won't let people move their own tokens. Is that something he was taking from that other thing that he's trying to emulate as well?
So, with Critical Role, sometimes they are not in the same room. So Matt Mercer moves all the characters for his friend. And he has 3D printout
Oh, so it's a situation
maps
where
and
they can't
everything.
physically move their own characters.
Yes.
Oh, okay. That makes
Sometimes
sense.
sometimes some of his buddies are in the room, sometimes they're not. But with Roll20, since we're all in there, we all should have the ability to move unless Roll20's being a bitch and fucking up, or you're having other technical issues.
I don't know. When I first started role-playing, it was all verbal, so there's no moving tokens around to begin with, but because everything was mapless. But once you start getting maps in there, it's usually for encounters or what have you, and at that point you have to kind of move your character to some degree, because, you know, where the hell are you moving to, what way are you facing, things like these matter at that point.
Exactly. And also on top of this, just not being able to move our character. The guy has said more than once that he's more than happy to kill our character. He seems to make mini bosses that are way overpowered for our characters, and just some of the rules, like I said, are inconsistent. And
well, with the mini boss thing, I'm going to tease you a little bit, because scaling an adventure is something that, as you learned, can be quite difficult at times.
oh god, yeah, it can be.
I mean, we've done a couple that it's like, I have no idea how this one's going to turn out. There are some that I'm like, okay, they might not have a chance, but if there's a pretty good chance that I'm looking at it like I have no idea how this is going to go, I usually will have something planned to potentially save the day, or to give them a chance to escape or something.
If you have to put in a MacGuffin when you know it's a very dire situation and you don't want the players to die, or at least give them a chance, that's okay, but you shouldn't do it all that often. Also, I mean, you really need skill in a counter where they at least have a chance, like you said. If there's no chance, it's just absolute bullshit, in my mind.
You have to,
They have to have at least even a sliver of chance.
And I'm going to counter a little bit. It's not that it's bullshit. It's just that it's the players. You need to give the players some chance of success. And it's not that it's bullshit, because yeah, people can walk into situations where they have no fucking chance of winning. But that's why you give them a chance to escape or something like that, and, you know, try again at some other point. Because yeah, there are no-win situations in life, but this is a game. It's a story. And I mean, even if it comes down to, because I will acknowledge I did this at one point. I had one particular encounter in which only a couple people were slated to live. I made sure there were extra NPCs to take the hits. But most of the actual player characters survived. All of the NPCs got wiped out. And I think we lost one player that day too. But this was
very
ages
possible.
ago.
It's quite possible one. Before my time, then.
Oh yeah, way before. This was the introduction of Shavar of all characters.
Oh, the infamous Shavar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see here.
Top assassin.
Also, if honestly, you should almost have somewhat a written idea or an idea in your head to tell the players what the rules are of the game. With this one particular game that we've been talking about, I don't really have shit for rules. I just found out today that depending on what skills you're rolling on, high rolls are good, others they're not. Vice versa.
Oh, you found that out today.
Found that out today. It was
How
stuff
many
like,
of these games have you played?
I think this is like my 4th or 5th one with this guy.
And you just found... Okay, yeah, that's not explaining things correctly. Damn. Wow.
No, it's not. I'll be.
Yikes. Or somebody making things up as you go, but good grief. And this is actually an established role-playing system he claims to be using. Oh, okay. Well, what other horrible GM mistakes have you seen others committing that you've been able to learn something from?